the school administration, the parents, the children, as we come to the close of the year, and particularly for the candidate classes, it is nice and fitting to give thanks to God, not only for this year, but for the years that we have moved through, for the years that we have tried to see that our children are put in the right track. Our children get the right knowledge. We form them to be good citizens. Good citizens. And once they are good citizens, this will also merit the eternal reward for them. We don't leave it in heaven, but we practice it from here, and we are awarded the reward. Today, the readings are more apocalyptic, alluding to the end of time and what. But this particular reading we are taking today want to reflect on the way society should move, the ideal way a community should be driven, the ideal way education should prepare us to be in our society, to be in our country, to be in our continent. Looking at this is a man called Thomas Hobbes. He says, man in his natural state is very brutal. The state of nature makes him do whatever he wants. He's brutish. He looks at himself, protects himself, and thinks, I am the only ideal. I'm the only ideal. And can take any course to do anything in this state. That is not bothered of whether the other man or the other environment is taken care of. As he does this, he or she protects himself or herself to the full. To the full. And Hobbes says, as man protects himself, does not want anybody to interfere with, but yet is ready to do anything to the other person. And he calls this state war of all for all. That everybody is at war. It is like the rule of jungle life. When you watch the wild animal life, the wild geographical scene, you see how the lion takes advantage over some animals, but sometimes fierce animals defend themselves, and sometimes they are saved. In this image of Thomas, he says this state of man is bad. It's not good, because he grew in a time of civil war in England, and he felt the effects of war, how bad they were, and was praying that a generation to come should not experience this. But to balance this, he sees it difficult, and he says the only way through for such a community, for such a society to be settled, is to balance this brutal man with a superior man. And he calls the superior man the Leviathan, the prince, the king. And he says this king will reconcile this man. The presence of this king will put order. The presence of this king will make sure there is rules, there are laws that are followed. But these rules and laws are not put to dehone this man, but to bring peace, harmony to the society in which this man lives. And as he exclaimed this, I think his desire was an ideal society where human life lives at peace with each other, lives at harmony. And this ideal man, according to another person, Aristotle, he says, is somebody who has gone very far in knowledge and understanding. Is called the philosopher king. And this philosopher king, when he's in the community, in the society, puts on a gown, and behind the gown, behind this man, there's a hood. And as this man moves in the village, because he's the determinant of this village, as he moves, the village people know that this is the man who determines the right way for us to go. So the village people move quietly behind this man and drop money in his hood. That we know you, because you are our man, you determine what is good for us in the society, we must sustain and protect you. And he will not say anything, but he will be moving. And the society people will only come and drop the money in his hood. In this way, they try to show to the world that this is our Leviathan. This is our superior. This is our king. But this king is prepared for a long time to be pronounced to the public. For the public to know this is our person. He has to be pronounced after a long time. That means after a long training. Today, my dear brothers and sisters, particularly our dear candidates, this is the relevance of education today. This is the ideal of why we take all these years to study, to be in class, to be under somebody, to listen to the teachers, to undergo some harsh situations, to undergo some serious training, is to prepare you as a Leviathan, superior person. But this person is to harmonize the society, is to make sure the society lives in peace. The society is well settled. The society is an understanding society. The society is not chaotic. Minus this, there will be a lot of chaos in a community, in environment. The readings today are clearly alluding to how this ideal person comes to save the community. In the first reading we see John is seeing that ideal person who will come and save the community. And the one who is invited, he mentions him as the lamb. The lamb. In the gospel, Jesus speaks of calamities, misfortunes, hard happenings. Why should all this take place? And says there's the final person who will put a settle in all this. This happened in human life to realize the relevance of that ideal person, that superior person, that king, or that Leviathan. My dear children, you will know the presence of the parents in the family settles the home. Some of you, unfortunately, come from families where you have lost a father or a mother, or both. And it may be difficult in this situation to see the father figure, the mother figure in the family in settling your life. You may be given all the school necessities by your guardian, but the ideal image of your father and your mother is to show to you how important this superior person or persons are in your life. From childhood, how they nurtured you. After knowing the world, seeing that this is not for him enough, they take you to school. Year in, year out, you're studying. And your school needs are given. They are given. Sometimes from the little resources, sometimes from hard situations. They still think and give what they think is relevant for you. These are the first Leviathan, the first kings that we have. The first knowledgeable persons in our first societies that we have. And they prepare you. The other kings that we meet in the schools, the teachers, and all those who are in authority to entrust that we move on with our knowledge. From the family, you are handed to the school. And the school keeps you until the time and gives you back. See, this kind of balance and oscillation is to make sure this person is pruned and the ideal comes out of him. And they'll say, we have done our level, but now go to the next level. And in the next level, you find certain things unique. Especially when you will now advance to the university, when you'll be taking a course of your interest. And you may want a particular course, but in this particular course, there are other course units that you will have to undertake. And all this is to build you, to make you the ideal person. The ideal person. For John is the Lamb. And for Jesus, makes it very clear in the Gospel of St. Luke that is the liberator, is the one who comes to save. Who comes to save. Today, there are two walks of life. And if these two walks of life are well understood by the students, by the citizens, then we match a good society, a good community. The first is the faith. Some people think faith is ideal and we must only go by faith. And they end up being fundamentalists. And sometimes they use the faith as a cover. Like Konyi, we have heard of Konyi from northern Uganda. And they say now he's in the Central Republic, but he's living in Idea, whether he's there or not there. We have a woman from Uganda called Lakwena. He moved as a religious group, and he believed if you protest and you face gunshots, they will never touch you and you'll be saved. She escaped from Uganda and stayed in Kenya until her death. And she never achieved her ideal, what she wanted. We have many other examples of those who proclaim themselves as saviors in the world. And they end up in a miserable situation. That is religious fundamentalism. That is faith without reason. The faith with the reason acknowledges the second element, that is science. Today, dear parents, we are in a growing technological environment. The technology today is moving at a faster rate that even our children seem to be more knowledgeable in technology than some of us. Some of your children know how to manipulate your smartphones better than you. Some of you use it for snapshots, some few things, but these children know what to get from these smartphones. They manipulate it. That is the technological world, the science. And this science has come to live. It will keep transforming. It will keep changing from one instance to another. And as it changes, the society brings this in and moves with it. We cannot deny it. We cannot deny it. So, in the world today, to balance the two is one big issue. Because some people take to the sciences, to the technology, they think there is no God. They think there is no God. And they remain at their foot, they say they are atheists. They don't believe in God. Throwing aside the knowledge they have got to get these things comes from God. Comes from God. Throwing aside that the human person to some extent can discover, but is limited. The ideal discoverer is God. They forget that. And that leads to scientism. But the right person, the right citizen, is one who balances faith with science. Albert Einstein says, religion without science is lame, and science without religion is blind. The two, we need them. Today, if the church is growing and is advancing, it's because of some technological moves. If I am able to reach you, you are able to get me clear because of the mic, then it is science that has come in place. Ideally, I will use natural voice that could not reach all. So, how much do we put our knowledge to better use today? How much do we put our knowledge such that we realize the truth? We realize what the community should follow, what the community should be like, what the community should be empowered of. Today, there are some world dictators who put certain things for us to follow. You have to do this, you have to do this. And we know that very well. Even they put a limit to our education. This is what we have to follow. This is what we have to follow. And in this way, if we are just following, how shall we discover? And if we don't discover, how shall we know that our knowledge that we have is growing, is understanding? That is why we need the liberators. For a liberator to come, there is some element, some sense of madness in him. Christ has to accept what, according to the Jews and Greeks, was folly, utter nonsense, madness. The crucifixion. He had to accept that so as to save the world. Young as you are, what are you determined of that you want to save the community, the situation in future of? As we know, we have started the World Cup. We were discussing with my colleague, Father, how at St. Paul, down there in the primary, we could have the best football ground ever in the city, Kisumu. Because it's a low ground, it could be leveled, and it could be organized, and the world will be thinking that that is the ground that we can use. The St. Paul you have seen today, tomorrow when you come, what is a new thing that you want to put in place there? What is it that you went through this and you have come to put it a better place? We're not saying it is not okay, but it keeps changing, evolving, growing. And we are part and parcel of that growth system. If we're part and parcel of that growth system, then we must contribute in ideas, in resources, in whatever we can to make it a better place. Today, we pray for our candidates for this particular knowledge. We may go through education and we become learned people with a lot of papers, with a lot of degrees, certificates. But if these are not put to practice, it is nothing. That is why to be educated is different from being learned. We need our children to be educated such that the system they go through may also make them come and realize the dream for a better society. We ask the Lord to increase our faith and knowledge. We ask the Lord to be with us always, particularly to guard our parents. Give them the resources to strengthen us in our education system. Give them the mandate to be who they are, to stand by their faith, to stand by their resources, and see that they promote us, they make us realize our true dream in our lives. We pray for the institution. Institutions are in place to give better image of society. The more the institutions, the better. Institutions prepare us better for what the society calls us to do. That through these institutions, we may be better organized and may be better formed and be better citizens. We pray for each and every one of us here that we may be good stewards, good saviors, and through us, the image of the Lamb be realized. The Lord be with you.